Hi, I'm Karen, also known as the Preacher Lady. This week's devotion, When Your World Falls Apart. Now, when I first started blogging 10 years or so ago, my most popular blogs came from when I read or heard something that made me say, "What? No!" And I was reading a pastoral care book on dealing with grief, and the authors made the point that if you were feeling overwhelmed or abandoned or angry or hopeless, that was a sin and you needed to confess right now your faith was in danger because you obviously didn't believe strong enough. That sentiment got me an immediate, "What? No!" For those who know me, you know that Star Wars: A New Hope was was very formative in me claiming my understanding of my faith and growing up. So when Obi-Wan Kenobi was struck down by Darth Vader, Luke was clearly feeling overwhelmed. Did Princess Leia tell him to suck it up and confess that his hopeless feelings because they were a sin? No, she comforted him. She was a loving and caring presence. I'm also working on a book study for the Exactly As You Are, The Life and Faith of Mr. Rogers book. If you're planning on doing the book study with me at Grace Covenant, forgive me because you're going to hear this quote there too, because I think it's very important. It said, "God cared," Fred believed, "enough to be among us and feel every human feeling. And so Fred worked hard to be with children in their feelings, to explain and alleviate them when possible, but more importantly, to take seriously as God becoming human. In the incarnation, God living with us, Jesus felt these things too. We believe that Jesus was fully God and fully human. He went through exactly what we go through, but without sin. So when Jesus grieved and wept over Lazarus' death, that was not a sin. When Jesus got angry enough to drive the money changers out of the temple, his anger was not a sin. But the story I really want to remember here is Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Listen to this story from Luke 22, verses 39 through 46. Jesus came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. When he reached the place, he said to them, "Pray that you may not come into the time of trial." Then he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, knelt down, and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." Then an angel from heaven appeared and gave him strength. And in his anguish he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down on the ground. When he got up from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping because of grief. And he said to them, "Why are you sleeping? Get up and pray that you may not come into the time of trial." Then on the cross, Jesus cried out again, quoting Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Jesus grieved just as we do. He was sad, he got angry, he felt overwhelmed, he even felt abandoned on the cross. What we feel when we are grieving or when bad things happen is not a sin. God gave us these feelings. In Jesus, God totally understands these feelings. It's okay to cry. It's even okay to cry out to God. Look at the Psalms if you don't believe me. God understands our deepest feelings and our deepest pain, and that's good news. That means when we feel abandoned or alone or helpless, God not only understands, but God is there in the midst of that suffering with us. It's like in the Footprints poem. In the hardest times of our lives, when we look back and see only one set of footprints in the sand, it isn't because God abandoned us and left us. It's because when it got too hard and was too much for us, God carried us. There is a lot of grieving in the world right now. We are grieving over those who have died, over those who are sick, those who have lost their jobs, those who are cut off and isolated. Remember, as Jesus carries us through these rough times, we are also called to be Jesus's hands and feet. We are called to reach out to those who are hurting. Call or text or message your friends and family and just be there for them. You don't need to give advice. You don't need to criticize. Just be there and let them see that we are in this together. Let them know that they are not alone in this. If you enjoyed this devotion, you can find me at Geeks of Faith on Facebook or at the Grace Covenant Presbyterian of Church of Orlando's Facebook pages, or you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. Have a blessed week.